Welcome to the Coast to Coast podcast, brought to you by Play Picks and the Lines, coming to you from the West Coast. Josh Lander, joined by my guy Nate Weitzer on the East Coast. And we're looking at this Thursday night small 3-game slate here in the NBA. Going to bring you the first video of the day. We got the Lakers taking on the Grizzlies in Memphis. See what we can find there. Nate's got a great article up on playpicks.com as well with some best bets and some player props for you. Make sure to like and subscribe to that page. As I did mention, we have those couple other videos for you today, some player props in each and every one of those three. And as always, if you do still need a FanDuel or DraftKings account, head to fdpicks.com or dkpicks.com and find those listings in your area, such as what we've got for tonight. Nate, let's get into it.
Yeah, the Lakers are minus 3.5 now in some spots, and the total has risen all the way from 220 to 224 at the moment. It seems like it's going to keep going up the way the Lakers have been playing defense lately, but we're going to talk about maybe targeting that. And on the other two games tonight, we got Jazz minus 3 at Sixers. Total is up to 217 there. That's also rising. And Nuggets are plus 1.5 at the Spurs. That opened with the Nuggets slightly favored, but they're on a back-to-back, and the Spurs are not. So we'll break down each of those in a separate episode. But talking Lakers Grizz here, LeBron James is doing his thing, his midseason thing, a little bit earlier than necessary because it is necessary because the Lakers have been just so bad. He came back and he is righting the ship. They've won 3 of their last 4, 4th in net rating during that span, 3rd in rebounding rate, shoring things up on both ends of the floor, particularly on offense with him scoring efficiently. But I think their defense is going to continue rounding into form against a limited Grizzlies offense that without Ja Morant, I don't necessarily think they can get to their team total here of 109.5. I think this over is rising a little too fast. I would take the total under in this game. The last 2 meetings between these teams in LA went over, but the last 2 meetings in Memphis went under. And Memphis is averaging just 101 points per game in 4 games against LA before this season when they lost 121-118. But they needed 40 and 10 from Ja Morant to get there. Obviously, Ja is out. The Grizzlies are on a back-to-back situation. They have struggled recently. Their pace is down. Their defense is way up because they're playing Steven Adams more. And they've been doing a fantastic job on that end of the floor. The under is hit in 4 of their last 5 games, and it had been over in 7 in a row before that Ja injury. So I think it's a trend you can definitely target in terms of lower points output from the home team. And usually when we play in Memphis, it's not called the grindhouse for no reason. They will keep the other team in check to a degree. And I don't think we're getting over 224 as it currently stands.
Yeah, keep rising, everybody. Keep betting on that total for me because I'm going under for sure. I love this. You know, we've been talking recently, Nate, you and I, about not necessarily worrying about once you get into December, especially, right? You've got a large enough sample size that you can start breaking this season up into the most recent games and look at some trends with guys being in and out of the lineup, right? And these trends with LeBron being back in the lineup for LA and Ja Morant being out of the lineup for Memphis really just leads you to be able to feel a lot better about an under and feel like people are overvaluing an over because you watch Memphis drop, have a couple games this season in the 130s and even 140s. But that's when Ja Morant was there and they were playing at their pace, right? And most of their numbers relevant to the last 6 games since Ja has been out, they've been really good. I think that's a little bit misleading as they've been 5-1 against the spread and straight up. They won 5 in a row before that loss to Dallas last night. But the teams they beat in that 5 games and the last 6 games in those 5 wins, Toronto, Dallas won, Sacramento, Miami was a nice win, although they were also hurt. And then that historic win against OKC by 73 points. So, those wins are against teams that are struggling right now for sure, or just plain bad. But they have had the number 1 defensive rating in that time. And literally in the 14 games previous to that in November, they were dead last. So they there couldn't be a bigger turnaround for them on defense. And that's, also partly in part due to the fact of, their pace has gone down so much. Number 9 in pace in their last 6, as opposed to being number 1 previous to that. So, dropping off in their pace, as you mentioned, Steven Adams getting some more time. That has increased their rebound percentage to being best in the league in the last 6 games. Previous to that, it was 16th in the NBA for November. So yeah, it's about them slowing the ball down. Without Ja, you're not going to just get it and go every single time. He's a one-man offense. He can do everything, a one-man fast break, right? So that's not going to be the case here. And then inversely, you look at LA and what they've done in their last, you break it down to their last 4, because that's how many games LeBron has been back for. And in that time, similar to Memphis, I don't love that they've been playing some Rudy Poo competition, but they are 4th in net rating, whereas previous to that, they were 24th in net rating in November, 13th in pace, which is good for them after dropping down, after dropping that down to 13th after they were 2nd in pace in the league in the month of November. As we mentioned, LeBron's only played 5 games in those previous 14 since he's been back for the last 4 or so. So everything's just much different now, and people are not necessarily looking at the smaller, more recent sample size, which is not just a fluke sample size. It's a sample size of games that have the best player on one team out, the best player on the other team back, and it's not just about who's playing better now. The Lakers are playing better without LeBron, but Memphis hasn't seen a huge drop off in their total play because of the fact that they switched it up a little bit, and now they have 3 guys stepping up for them, specifically Desmond Bane, Dylan Brooks, and Triple J, Jaren Jackson Jr., averaging 20 and 5.5 boards in the last 6 games since Ja has been out. So there's some potential for some props there, but I think you start with going under. And if you like the Lakers in this one, like I do, I think they continue to take care of business in a game that they really, really need still, sitting at 13-12 right now, actually 14 and they're 1 game behind Memphis, which, everything matters at this point. Like you said, LeBron is already in mid-season form, despite the fact that it's not even the new year, because he's going to have to drag this team. And if he's going to do it, he's going to have to get some extra sleep in that cryo chamber so he can heal his body and really carry this team as far as they're going to go with him.
Yeah, and his props are way too low. It's minus 125 at FanDuel, but 30.5 points and assists, where the guy is averaging 31 points per game and 7.5 assists per game in his last 5, 32% usage rate in that span. I would hit that definitely until it changes. He could get 30 points tonight. He certainly could get 25 in a win, or you could look at the double-double bonus at FanDuel. Gets you 420 odds in a win there for the Lakers. The peripheral stats have been there against Memphis: 10 rebounds, 7.3 assists per game, along with 24 points in his last 4 meetings with this team. And really, yeah, it's just about the vibe around the Lakers that, they're trying to find an identity. They're trying to find an alpha. Obviously, there is no better alpha than the current king, LeBron James. And Anthony Davis is probably going to get bullied a little bit if he tries to go down low against Steven Adams. But you mentioned Jaren Jackson Jr., not the matchup you want on LeBron. Definitely not bulky enough to deal with him. Dylan Brooks might spend some time on Bron, but he's also more of a 3 or a 2 even. So I think he can get his at will, and he's just been so efficient lately, doing what he has to do to get this Lakers team on track, and also kind of coaching up the defense at the same time, as he is wont to do.
Yeah, 100%. And that's a big reason why they've turned it around, is not just their net rating, but their defense and their rebounding and everything. LeBron's coming in and doing those hustle points, as you mentioned. I would also say, we don't have those props for Memphis yet. I do think this is a game the Lakers win. So I am looking at things like those player performance doubles that we love to hit on FanDuel right now. LeBron James, 25 points and a Lakers W gets you 2-1 on your money there. Feel pretty good about that. And then, actually some unders, as you mentioned. I would look at the under team total for Memphis as well, 109.5 right now. I think they are going to continue to struggle to score a little bit without Ja in there. And specifically Desmond Bane and Dylan Brooks are, they've stepped up their scoring to average about 35, 36 combined points since Ja has been out. But that's on some pretty bad shooting, especially for Dylan Brooks, who still hasn't really pulled it together since he's been back from injury on offense. And you look at the Lakers right now, actually give up the 3rd least amount of points per game to shooting guards guards, which, Dylan Brooks is, and Desmond Bane will get in there and get a little bit of time at the point, definitely some at the three. And also another place that the Lakers have actually had some pretty decent defense against opposing positions, specifically those wing players, surprisingly, considering, how many guys they lost on in terms of defensive wings last season. But yeah, I do like that under. As we mentioned, we've got some pretty good feel on this one tonight, Lakers and the under here. So that is all the time we have for today. Make sure to like and subscribe, as we've got a couple other videos up for those two other games tonight. Until we see you next, happy betting.